A lark and her momster are coming your way. Gonna tell it how it is, so won't you join us today?
Not on my chair.
Welcome! My mom made it very clear that I didn't say welcome last time in the last episode, so I'm making it very clear that you're welcome today.
You're welcome? You're thanking them and you're welcoming them?
Thank you for coming to our podcast and welcoming.
I have no comeback to that.
I don't know if that's the right way to say welcome in German, but...
But you did it again. You did your Alexis impression of Schitt's Creek.
Just think I'm hypermobile, but okay.
Okay, yeah.
How are you? Because I also didn't ask how you were last time, and you made me very aware of that, too. So how are you?
I'm good, honey. How are you?
I have to pee a little, but other than that, I'm fine.
Why did you turn on the podcast when you have to go to use the little girl's room?
I don't know. I feel like the extra... Oh, now I can tell that I'm doing the Alexis hands.
We're so doing the Alexis thing. Anyway.
I handle pressure well. I mean, I'm better under pressure.
Oh, we all
Speaking
have
of
our illusions.
Speaking of under pressure, don't come at me with your copyright. This is an episode all about the pressures of
Middle School Melodrama.
Middle School Melodrama. But before we delve into that, we are currently brought to you by this really interesting wine that I can't pronounce, and I'm pretty sure it's German, but my mom made it sound like it was
Well, first of all,
something entirely different.
They are not sponsoring us.
They're not sponsoring us.
We're just drinking it. Let's be clear. Anyway, we promised in the last episode that we would bring you a non-alcoholic wine.
Which apparently still does the same thing that regular alcoholic wine
apparently.
does.
And this wine is by Leitz, and it's Eins, Zero Sparkling Rosé.
Or if you're me and you watched Cool Runnings too many times, it's Eins, Zwei.
Okay.
Zero Sparkling Rosé, which it might be.
And it is a non-alcoholic sparkler that exudes cool red fruits and lean minerality with notes of rose hips and sky berries.
What are sky berries?
I have no idea.
Are they berries in the sky?
I'm pretending like they're berries in the sky.
The berries that fall from the sky?
Probably strawberries because it's kind of like reddish. I don't see any blueberries in there. But I do see the rose hips because, you know.
If you know what sky berries are, can you let us know? Send us an email because...
Yeah, send us an email at larkandmomster@gmail.com.
That's a new one for me.
We want to know what sky berries are.
We do. But you know what I know a lot about?
Middle School Melodrama?
I know so much about it.
I know. It was one of the most challenging phases of both of our lives.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it really was. I don't ever want to go back to middle school because of my experience of you in middle school.
I don't ever want to go back to middle school because my experience with myself
That was bad.
and other people. I'm not going to name names, but there were some females in my middle school.
It's interesting because I've talked to other moms about this, and it's a general consensus that middle school girls can be some of the meanest girls out there.
1000%.
And I don't know why. And it's got to come from a place of insecurity or unhappiness or a feeling of needing to be better than someone else, so you're going to make somebody else miserable. But they can truly hone in on what other people who are struggling.
They're like the worst energy vampires that were ever created. And it's fascinating because when I'm looking back, I'm like, oh, that girl had it all. At least she seemed to.
She seemed to.
She later developed a habit we won't talk about because I don't want to go into that or, anything like that. And it's not a great habit. So.
Well, and we know a lot more today. Like, for example, there's a lot of research that's been done around adverse childhood experiences, adverse community environments, and recognizing that children who grow up in homes that have parents or family members in the home who are struggling with substance use, disorder or struggling with mental health issues, or who have a parent who's incarcerated, or maybe a parent of dogs who are now laying like crazy. Seriously, guys. Sorry. You're going to hear a lot of...
We're going to just take a momentary pause so I can wrangle these crazy dogs. And we'll be right back. I think they're done playing for now. If you... Well, I lied. We're just going to take another minute. Coming back to middle school melodrama.
It is melodrama. What was I talking about? Oh, I was talking about ACEs and the research that shows that the more ACEs you have, whether it's...
ACEs are adverse childhood experiences. She might have said that earlier, but my dog has howled since, so I don't remember, so just wanted to put that.
And those childhood experiences can be negative due to things like poverty or racism or bullying, just to be clear. And when we talk about middle school, one of the things that really comes into play is bullying. And I
Big time.
didn't know that you were being bullied as much as you were.
Well, and I didn't talk about it. I very much internalized a lot. Probably up until I don't think we really talked about how bad my bullying was until I was so afraid to tell you because I knew you would do something about it. And sometimes that makes it worse, which is so interesting because, you want to nip it in the bud, but at the same time, bullies, it's like tattletelling, right? Or whatever it's called. Tattletelling, or being a rat, right? Like if you're a rat, you're going to get it worse as opposed to if you just kept it inside. And so it wasn't until actually something really traumatizing happened that, you had to step in because the bullying got so bad that it affected me for a large portion of my life. Because,
it really did, yeah.
Because it was so bad. And I think it's only been in the past few years that girls, women, people in general have really started to come out and talk about how bad bullying can be. We didn't even have cyberbullying back then. It was right at the beginning because I experienced it because I was probably the first people, not saying like I'm the first, but like I was one of the first people who had a picture of themselves that I didn't want up on the internet, that I did not okay, that I didn't know was going to happen, that, I thought these people were my friends. They weren't my friends.
Clearly.
Yeah. And it got so bad that I had death threats and I was afraid to go to school because I was bullied into doing something. And after being bullied into doing something, you're then bullied about it. And it's just amazing how... and I was a kid that, and in previous episodes we talked about not having a father figure, not having, that real strong confidence in yourself to be able to know who good people are and who aren't, and, struggling with the need to be liked versus having enough respect for yourself to not give a fuck about people.
Right.
And I had such a need to be liked, and it's something that I still struggle with is this people-pleasing need. And it's much less now because...
Well, I think that's also coming up as a woman. You were raised during very formative years as a woman in the South because you grew up initially in the South.
True.
When we moved to Los Angeles, I think...
It was a whole new world.
It was a whole new world, but that you brought with it that Southern sensibility of women should be nice and polite and should go along and all of that. And part of the reason that I moved you is I didn't want you to be a follower. I wanted you to be a leader.
Right.
And yet I didn't know that you were struggling the way you were.
Right.
And definitely when I found out about that particular situation, you saw the mama bear.
Oh, Mama Bear came out big time. I was like, I knew Mama Bear existed, but I didn't know Mama Bear existed. And you were that I saw a whole different side of you.
But you were also afraid that I was going to be upset with you.
Yes.
And I wasn't upset with you. I was angry. I was pissed at them.
I remember. I remember.
You know, and the fact that, and what I should have done then, that I didn't do then, because I thought that if we address the situation, and I didn't know about the other stuff that was going on, but for that particular instance, I thought if we address that situation, that you would grow into realizing that that was not about you, that was about them. Mm-hmm. And we talked about it, yet, if, you know, hindsight's 2020, mm-hmm. I would have had you in therapy like that.
Right.
But I asked you, and you said no. And what I didn't realize is that wasn't up to you. That was up to me.
Yeah.
I should have said, get your ass into the therapist's office.
Right. And it's so interesting because, you know, we're in a society where it's like, well, what does a kid need? And we don't know what we need at 13. We don't know at 12, at 11. You know, we don't
or
know.
14 or 16.
I didn't know. I was 18 what I needed.
No. You didn't know when you were 26.
I didn't know when I was 32 what I needed. So
you were getting better though.
I was. But it's true. You know, it's you know, I think parents think like, oh, my kid's mature, or they're like, when I talk to them, things seem so normal. But there's a lot that we hide because I know for me it was a lot of shame. It was a lot of shame of allowing people to treat me like that. I mean, I went through, and I'll just give some vague details about what I was bullied for. My hair. Long curly hair. It was frizzy. It was a fro.
It was not frizzy. It was beautiful.
I know, but I'm just telling you what, I was bullied for my skin color. I was told that I was adopted. I was bullied for brown eyes because they were boring and nobody cared. And it was in a time when this is so ironic, but the all-American girl look was in. So blonde hair, blue eyes, real thin, which, by the way, super ironic because if you're really all-American, you're fucking indigenous.
Yeah, exactly. Amen.
and you know, we know indigenous people can look all different ways, but anyway, that was the norm of what was beautiful. And I was the complete opposite of all of that. I was full-figured as a kid, you know, I just developed at a young age, so I was bullied for that. I mean, I was bullied for the fact that I could sing. I was bullied for being smart. Anything that I was proud of immediately got diminished and just shat upon. And it was hard. And so I did all of the things that I was told would make me prettier. I tried to be thin. I would straighten my hair. I hung out with the popular kids because I thought that would make me cool. You okay?
I am trying to make sure that Luna can have this bone, and she's fighting me on it. Can she have that one?
No, give it to me. Sorry,
Thank you.
My dog's not allowed to have certain things because she's older now and can't chew things. But back to being bullied. I'm sorry that I was bullying you by removing the bone. Thank you very much. Luna's never bullied, by the way. I do pull her tough sometimes, but that's about the extent of her bullying. Other than that, she's very spoiled. But coming back to me, a lot of it was...
Because it's all about you.
Listen, Linda. Linda, listen. It wasn't when I was younger, so it is now. No, it's tough being in middle, and middle school was really the pivotal point, and that's the pivotal point of when we're learning things too, is that like 10 to 13 age.
It's one of the key developmental phases.
Thank you. Yeah. And why don't you kind of go into a little bit of research, because you're the research queen.
I'm not the research queen, but I do love how research can inform and reform how we react to certain situations. Mm-hmm. And again, had I known then what I know now,
hindsight's 2020.
I would have done so many things differently, and yet I didn't know then. And so, therefore, I just apologize to you on a regular basis. I'm so sorry.
Well, we're continuing to learn every single day. I mean, even now, we don't know everything. We're still learning.
Well, and there's been a lot of research. As a matter of fact, there's a researcher out of Johns Hopkins. Her name is Dr. Christina Bethel, who's identified, because when we know about, I realize I'm being very tangential here, but when we know what we know about adverse childhood experiences, adverse community environments, the question is, what can you do about them? How can we prevent them when they occur in childhood from changing our children's DNA and creating that epigenetic DNA link to future generations? Mm-hmm. How can we help children become more resilient and not go through some of the mental health situations that you experienced?
Right.
And yet, we didn't know a lot. We've known since 1997 that these negative experiences in childhood, the more you have, the greater the likelihood that you will experience health and mental health challenges throughout your lifetime, right?
Yeah.
But Dr. Bethel has identified positive childhood experiences, and there are 7 of them. If you're interested, you can Google it, PCEs, positive childhood experiences. And if you have 3 or more of those, it buffers those ACEs for children who are growing up.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it is. And one of them is that kids have a feeling of belonging in high school. And
yeah, I didn't have that either.
Well,
I had more of it in high school than I did in middle school.
Well, I was going to say, you had more of it in high school.
And it wasn't really until about sophomore, junior year that I really started to feel it. And I started to have friends that gave me that sense of belonging. Or I was in a school that allowed me to be weird and artistic. And
right.
And, you know, we could dress up on Halloween. I had a history teacher who loved that I loved history, and classmates who thought that was cool.
Yeah.
You know, and who really validated that and who made you feel cool for things like that. I had teachers.
His name is?
Jared Friedman.
That's
Mr.
right.
Friedman.
Mr. Friedman.
He was Mr. Friedman. And there is a certain date in history that I can't talk about because it's my PIN number, but I'll always remember it because of you, Mr. Friedman. So shout out.
So high school was better for you. Yes. But it didn't, that particular buffer didn't change what happened to you in middle school. So I really do think more research needs to be done.
Because 3 years, I mean, that's 3 years of development.
Yes.
And 3 years that I didn't talk about it until really after high school.
Well, you didn't talk about it till you were well in your 20s.
I remember. Funny enough, we were in Paris when we had a conversation about this once.
And we have a picture right over here of us drinking. No, that's in Dublin.
That's entirely a different city.
Sorry, that one's in Dublin. But I have a picture of us in Paris.
Yes, but it was another time when we were in Paris that I had all of these. It was like I hate the word, I hate come to Jesus, but it was like here's all the stuff I never told you that I'm going to tell you. Mm-hmm. And that was one of the things.
We were in a booth.
We were.
In a bar in Paris.
Yes,
mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it was, and it even to this day, I get choked up about some of the things that I went through in middle school because I know that there are girls that go through it now, and it's almost worse now because of cyberbullying.
Yeah.
And like I said, when it was kind of, you know, I feel somewhat lucky that I didn't grow up in this huge cyber.
You didn't grow up?
I didn't grow up. No, I didn't grow up.
And who's the bully now? Your mother.
I didn't grow up.
I'm just correcting your grammar.
You're just correcting words that aren't coming out correctly, which thank you. I feel lucky that I didn't grow up in the Instagrams and the Instagrams, wow, and the Facebook and
no more non-alcoholic wine for you. Just goes to show we don't even need to drink real wine.
No, exactly. But I can't imagine what people go through now. And I've heard stories, and we've watched the documentaries, and I've listened to other podcasts, and I've heard other stories, and it really, if you are going through something, and if you're a teenager listening to this, if you're a mom of a teenager listening to this, ask questions. I know it's awkward.
Not even a teenager.
No, preteen.
Yeah, preteens too.
Kid. I mean, I don't even know what age is middle school these days, but if you have a kiddo I'm so used to saying kiddo because I worked with kids, and so that's just how I refer to them. But if you have a daughter or son or whatever, I mean, this is specifically focused towards daughters, and girls really get it bad in middle school because, like you said, girls are sometimes worse to girls than even guys are to girls in middle school. Mm-hmm. It's insane how mean girls can be.
Yeah. So it was a lot of trauma for you.
Yeah.
And I didn't know it, so I couldn't do anything about it. And I think it's really hard as a mom looking back to know that you were suffering so much, and for me not to have seen it or felt it, because I always thought we were the Gilmore Girls,
Yeah. But even Rory didn't share some things with Lorelai.
Well, yeah.
And also it's a TV show.
Is it?
A little bit.
But is it really?
A little bit.
No.
Those actors are making bank on that TV show.
And yeah, I don't know. But I always felt like we had a strong connection, and I always told you could tell me anything. You were better off to come to me and tell me the truth than to tell me a lie.
Right.
The consequences would be...
Or what you wanted to hear, which it's so interesting because when you are bullied enough, or when you have such little faith in yourself or confidence in yourself, you do tell people what they want to hear, because it comes back to that sense of being liked. Not being trusted, not being respected, but I want to be liked. So you tell people what they want to hear versus the truth. And it took me a long time to get to the point. But you didn't
have to have your mother loved you. You didn't need me to like you.
Yeah, but I was in a mental state where I just wanted everyone to like. There was no regulation in my head around my emotions, because
that's true.
I didn't have a therapist. I didn't know how to regulate my emotions.
I don't even know. Well, we did know some back then, but we didn't know for young kids back then.
Right.
What we know in terms of potential interventions.
Right.
We had those interventions for adults.
Right. Yes.
But not necessarily for youth. And if there were interventions, it would have been at high school, not necessarily at middle school. Because, you're 12, 13 years old.
Remember, it's a pivotal time, people. I know you think that kids don't know things or kids aren't going through things, but I went to a middle school where I learned way more in middle school about, we'll just say, life in general.
Well, you learned a lot in middle school that I just was floored. You would come back and you would tell me some of the things that happened. And you would tell me about things that happened to other people. You just didn't tell me that it was happening to you.
Right. And I just want to say, like, if you're in your head and you're thinking, like, oh my God, terrible things did happen. I'm lucky that I didn't have worse things happen that I do know happen to other people. Mm-hmm. I do know happen to other kids. And there is something to be said about hurt people that hurt people.
Oh, totally.
And I will attest that I remember there was one girl, and it was actually at an event, and I was mean about her behind her back. And that will forever stay with me, because I remember I really liked her, and I thought she was super cool, and I hung out with her, and we were friends. But because I was so determined to be liked by these other kids, I didn't even freaking know, I was like, oh, you shouldn't like this girl.
That's sad.
It was, and I still think about it to this day, and I still have guilt around that to this day, because that's not who I am. It's not who you raised me to be, and it wasn't cool for her, because she was great, and she had her own stuff that she was dealing with, like in her own personal family life, but I was hurting so bad that I wanted so many people to like me that I became a bully.
Right.
Right. And so there is something to be said that, I don't know where, I think I forgive my bullies. Well, let me say that. I don't necessarily know that I forgive, but I forgive them. I can't forget what they did.
Right. You can forgive without forgetting.
Right. I can forgive them, because if I don't, then I'm just going to hold on to all of that. But it tells me, and then from my own research, and then from what I've seen from working with kids, I know that people who are really hurting, whether that be at home, whether that be in their own situations with their own friends, hurt people. So those people who are dealing or were dealing with childhood adverse experiences, it's a perpetual cycle. So it's important to break that loop, talk to your kids. And if you're a preteen listening to this, sorry for all the bad words. I said sorry for all the bad words, but you're going to do what you're going to do, so you might as well have the right information, and that's something too. But their internet is vast.
It is vast.
The internet is there for everyone, so you can look things up, but you should have the right information. You should have the right people in your corner, and the people who want to see you do well, succeed, have confidence, and who are going to have your back because they care.
You're absolutely right. And I would encourage moms who have, especially single daughters, or daughters in general. I did say that. If daughters who are single.
If you have single daughters, that's a whole different issue, but I'm one of them, so we're just gonna pour another glass of non-alcoholic wine. Woo.
Clearly, we don't need the alcohol.
Nope.
If you're a mom who has a daughter, especially a single mom with a daughter, or multiple daughters, or I don't know. I'm kind of lost for words. Can you back that up? Just back that whole thing up.
I'm not. No. The amount of times you said.
Are we on pause?
No. The amount of times you said, can you just back that up? I'm in my head going, back that thing up. Sorry. No, if Morbid can laugh this loud, then so can we.
No, I don't think they do.
They do. I just listened to a whole episode where they laughed for like 2 minutes straight, and it made me so happy.
But were they so discombobulated in their ability to communicate what they wanted to communicate?
No.
Okay.
Maybe. I don't
back
know.
it up.
Maybe it wasn't even Morbid. It might have been an episode of Scream, which I'm just throwing out.
No more.
Okay.
It's
a great podcast.
So let me just say that if you're a mom who has a daughter or more than a daughter, I'm struggling. If you're a mom with daughters, okay. No more non-alcoholic wine for us.
Compose yourself.
I'm trying. I'm really trying. It's very hard.
I'll say it. If you're a single mom with a daughter or daughters, or a kiddo that is, that is growing up in this day and age, that is being bullied. I don't know if that's where you were going with this.
It wasn't exactly where I was going. What I was going to say was to create a safe space, to make sure that your daughters know that you're there to listen to them, allow to talk, create those safe spaces where you can have those conversations and be honest and allow them to share, and also know they're probably not going to share everything with you. Mm-hmm. Yet be observant. See if their behaviors are changing. See if you see them dressing differently. See if you see them become more not disassociated, but dismissive, or if they're in their rooms more, or if they don't want to be as present, or if they're not telling you as much. I mean, I'm just the cautionary tale here. If you notice, and you can come at it from like a non-accusatory way. You can come at it from a very loving way. You can come at it from a very interested way. Well, I tried all of those things. I tried coming in and checking in, saying, "Are you okay? You seem a little distant. Everything okay?" And you would say, "Everything's fine. Everything's fine."
Right.
And then I would come in and go, what's wrong with you? Which we shouldn't say at all.
No.
What I would have been better off asking what happened to you. What happened to you today that's making you kind of stay in your room more?
Right.
What happened to you at school today? Because at the end of the day, it's not about what's wrong with someone. It's about what happened to them.
Yeah. And to speak on the behalf of, the daughter in this situation, we might not tell you everything for fear of getting in trouble or for fear of some sort of repercussion, because that's just what is normalized in society more so than anything else.
You never got in trouble for anything you told me.
No.
Except when you didn't tell me the truth.
True.
And it never kept you from keeping things from me.
No, but it comes back to that fear, and then my own emotional need to be liked versus to tell the truth and just have things be okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know the difference. I do now. And I think as long as you can be open to having those conversations, and if your kid says, okay, so this isn't about me, but Becky, I don't know how I'll go with that name, but Becky had this weird thing happen to her, and what do you think is going to happen to Becky if this is what's happening? She's Becky. So, I mean, not all the time, but, sometimes just pay attention to things like that.
Right.
Be interested, and if anything, sometimes it's better to assume in those situations and come at it from a place of love and a place of wanting to help, as opposed to being distant or thinking that your kid can handle it.
I think that's the bigger thing, that we sometimes raise our children to think that they can handle it, that we've prepared them to handle it, and they're not emotionally or psychologically always in a place to handle it. So, and every child is different. You might have two children who one could handle it and the other one can't.
Right.
Because our children come out of the womb with different DNA and different personalities and different needs around how we nurture them, different needs around encouraging them to engage in different types of activities. Some are into the arts, some are into sports, some are into academics. Every child is different, so it's finding how to have those connections with each of those children and create those safe spaces so that they will share as much as they can. Yeah, and no more non-alcoholic wine for us.
And I will say, I like to kind of end our episodes on a positive note and give you your props or give you your glow-ups, or what is it? Give you your flowers where they're due.
What?
I've worked in so many places where they just try to toxically be like, we're just going to give you a glow up.
A glow up? It's so close to a blow up. And I think of bombs. What? I don't know why.
That's so morbid.
It is morbid, but yeah, we listen to a lot of, murder podcasts.
We listen to a lot of morbid too. So it's a podcast, by the way. Morbid's a great podcast. Just shouting it out there because eventually I'll be friends with them. They don't know it yet. Not creepy at all. Something that you always did, what you did really give me that safe space. It wasn't until I felt safe in who I was that I felt like I could talk about these things. And
how is that going back to the glow up?
Well, let me get there.
Okay, sorry.
The glow up is that you always tried your best with everything that you knew, And to this day, you're like, I wish I knew this. I wish I had known that. I would have done this. I would have done this. But you did everything that you could with what you knew.
Yeah, thanks, honey. I did try.
And
I definitely tried.
You should give yourself props, because there's a lot of people out there who wouldn't have gone to the lengths, who wouldn't have been that mama bear the way you were, who would have been mad at their kid instead of mad at the bullies. And you had my back in so many situations. And I was able to talk to you about things that bothered me and things that upset me. And you listened. And not every kid has that. So I feel very, very lucky. And I think it's what allows us to be where we are today.
I think you're spot on there.
Yes,
Yeah, I do. She's stuttering. I am kind of at a loss for words there. Yet you did talk to me. I did listen. Yet you didn't always talk to me. And
yeah, but that's my own gnosis. So.
I know, but when we're encouraging other moms and daughters to find that relationship, it's also finding that relationship later on.
Yes.
Because that openness didn't come until you were in your 20s.
True. So it's never giving up hope, and it's never closing off.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's staying open. Staying open to, me, staying open to you, realizing to, because it's so easy for us to go, oh, our parents could have done better, like I blame my mom, like Freud, whatever. As opposed to going, wow, my mom did the best, really the best she could with everything that she knew, with everything that she had, with all of the research that was done at that point in time.
Yeah, yeah. And it does take a lot of work. It's taken a lot of therapy, your therapy, my therapy, the willingness.
The mutual therapy.
Yeah. So for moms who maybe don't have great relationships with their daughters, or daughters who don't have great relationships with their moms right now, that doesn't mean you can't have a good relationship.
True.
It means you have to know what the other person is like and how open they might be to making changes or to opening up and accepting responsibility.
Yes.
And to owning some of things that may have happened in the past.
Right.
And then doing the work to be able to have those conversations.
Right.
Because you haven't always liked me growing up.
I mean, same.
Well, no, I always liked you. Well,
no, you always
loved
me.
You. I just didn't always like some of the things you did.
No, literally the other day, you were like, I always loved you. I didn't always like you.
Well, I didn't. Yeah, that's true. Okay. You're absolutely right. Point is that relationships take a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
And that includes the mom-daughter relationships. Sometimes it comes easy and naturally. There's a lot of commonality between moms and daughters. They get along and they're great. And sometimes you have to really work at it.
Sure.
So we encourage all of those people who might be listening at some point, hopefully listening at some point, to recognize that...
I don't know why I did that.
I don't know why you did it either. Recognize that it's never too late.
It's never too late. And... like you said, it takes both parties.
It does.
So, if we also understand that sometimes the other party may not be willing to work on that, and that is not on you.
That's right. You've done your work. That's all you can do.
Exactly.
And you've tried.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so keep that in your heart as well. And know that we are here for you. So if you ever want to reach out to us, talk to us about anything that you're going through, if you've ever had your own experiences overcoming bullying, or if you're dealing with bullying,
Middle School Melodrama,
or if you had your own middle school melodrama, please feel free to write to us, talk to us about your experiences. In the future, we will have some guests on the podcast as well to talk about their experiences. Not just, with middle school melodrama, but as moms and daughters, single moms, daughters dealing with boundaries, dealing with moms they're close with and moms they may not be close with, or just different styles of relationships.
So email us at Lark and Momster,
LarkandMomster
@gmail.com.
Yes, and we will see you next week.
All right. Can't wait.
Can't wait. Over